There was a man many years ago who had a great vision. He believed in children. He knew that a good beginning would help children lead productive lives. A good education could never be wrong. Thank you, Mr. William Strong. William Strong was born in Massachusetts on March 2, 1890. He graduated from Everett High School in 1908 and went on to receive a bachelor's degree from Tufts College and a master's degree from Harvard University. He served in the United States Army during World War I. Mr. Strong taught school in Massachusetts and Connecticut. He became the superintendent of the Southington school systems in 1934. Mr. Strong was superintendent for 21 years. Our school was built in 1958 and named after Mr. William Strong. To celebrate Strong School's 40th anniversary, students in all grades researched events from each decade of our school's existence.
Years they come and years they pass. Memories are what make them last. 40 years and counting, they came and went. Let's remember for a moment how that time was spent. Swing and bop, rock and roll. Elvis Presley and Nat King Cole. Dance all night, sleep all day. Golly, Miss Molly, how we wish you would stay. We were in our pajamas heading off to bed when Mom and Dad packed us in the car instead and cruised down to the drive-in where we made the scene, watching Hollywood heroes on the silver screen. Swing and bop, rock and roll. Elvis Presley and Nat King Cole. Dance all night, sleep all day. Golly, Miss Molly, how we wish you would stay. American bands and rockin' round the clock. Slick back hairdos and bobby sots. Hear the roar of the engine, see the flashing chrome as the hot rods go racing from the mold shop home. Swing and bop, rock and roll. Elvis Presley and Nat King Cole. Dance all night, sleep all day. Golly, Miss Molly, how we wish you would stay. It was a time before the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. It was long before a man on the moon did roam. When all the things you take for granted hadn't yet been born. In that black and white moment just before the storm. Swing and bop, rock and roll. Elvis Presley and Nat King Cole. Dance all night, sleep all day. Golly, Miss Molly, how we wish you would stay. Golly, Miss Molly, how we wish you would stay. Golly, Miss Molly, how we wish you would stay.
During the 60s, people spoke up for their beliefs. This helped bring about many changes.
Equal rights! Equal rights! Equal rights! Equal rights! Equal rights! Equal rights!
African Americans were banned from restaurants, schools, and other public places. If you were black, you couldn't even travel on a bus from state to state. The Freedom Ride from Washington, D.C. across the South was a protest to segregation. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous I Have a Dream speech at the March on Washington in 1963. We'll never forget Martin Luther King's dream. His words of equality one day will be seen. He hoped that all children would soon be free to grow up and be what they want to be.
No more war! No more war!
People of all ages and ethnic backgrounds marched to Washington to protest the war in Vietnam. As the war continued, university students held protest rallies. When Kennedy was elected president, he said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." Our 35th president, John F. Kennedy, was assassinated in 1963. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in 1967.
The 60s saw remarkable progress in space exploration through the efforts of late President Kennedy. He announced a program in 1961 to put Americans on the moon within a decade. Alan Shepard was the first American in space. The following year put John Glenn into orbit around the Earth. Neil Armstrong made news with his Apollo flight in 1969 as he stepped onto the moon's surface. His voice was transmitted to Earth saying, "That's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind." Kids in the 60s had their own flair, wearing beads and flowers in their hair. Ed Sullivan said their sound was new. "We'll love you, yeah, yeah, yes we do." Beatles sang, dance took new form. British bands took America by storm. Thousands flocked to New York State, storming through the Woodstock gates. Sports in the 60s took over our country as we shouted hurrah on Super Bowl Sunday. The Special Olympics had their first games where handicapped athletes finally gained fame.
The 70s and 80s brought us events of celebration and sadness. The United States celebrated the 200th anniversary of Independence Day. Tall ships with their gallant white masts, billowed in the breeze, sailed around the Statue of Liberty in New York. Families from all over the world came to visit our great country.
Disney World and theme parks became the place to go. Enter the Magic Kingdom or visit Universal Studio. Ride through the parting Red Sea or roam the haunted house. Walk and talk with Goofy and laugh with Mickey Mouse.
Physical fitness and environmental health became concerns for the 70s. People could be seen out jogging in their new Nike sneakers or sitting in their cars waiting in very long gas lines. It wasn't unusual to wait a half an hour or more to get gas. They say there's a gas shortage. On the political front, the war in Vietnam ended along with the draft. In the 80s, we saw major political changes with the collapse of the Soviet Empire. We also saw Sally Ride, the first American woman to travel in space, on the Shuttle Challenger. Unfortunately, we also saw 6 other astronauts die when the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded in 1986.
Rachel Carson introduced environmental issues a decade earlier in her new book, Silent Spring. People took an active voice during the 70s and 80s after experiencing major environmental disasters. The 3 Mile Island nuclear reactor accident led to a partial core meltdown. Fires and explosions at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant released radioactive materials over much of Europe. The Exxon oil spill was the largest accident of this kind in United States history. People are still suffering the consequences of these environmental disasters. We saw Mount St. Helens erupt with great force and create a change in the weather course. Mudslides, floods, and fires abound. Families and friends were forced to leave town. The 90s brought changes at a faster pace than ever before. We are still addressing many of the same issues as in the past, with hopes toward a bright and peaceful future.
What will the next millennium bring? Students at Strong School describe education in the year 3000. Children will fly to school and float on the playground. Launch tubes will bring us from class to class, or we can put on our anti-gravity skateboards. Of course, drivers and cars will have the added protection of force fields. Schools may be underground or held up by a big pole. The school will be built in the shape of a flying saucer. Schools may float above the ground or be built in outer space, complete with a separate gym bubble. I might attend Mars Elementary School and travel there by space bus. And then again, I think in the year 3000 our school will be falling apart.
Teachers will look different too. Maybe then they wouldn't mind if you are a geek or different. I think that in the year 3000, the teacher is going to be a big computer. Each student will have their own computer as their teacher and best friend.
Subjects will be harder in 3rd grade, but don't worry. Just put on your special hat that transfers answers directly to your brain. Or better yet, kids won't be in school at all after eating a pill given at birth that gives you everything you need to know in life. Bottom line, schools will understand that kids just want to have fun. Strong School will have a new playground and an indoor snowboarding track. Part of the playground will look like a jungle, and the most important part of the playground will have a pond with great fishing.